So welcome everyone to today's discussion on the evolving relationship between dermatology and rheumatology. My name is Valerie Kovney and I'm your host. Joining us today are Dr. Jasmina Jankicevic and Dr. Juan Ovalles. Dr. Jankicevic is the Chief Medical and Scientific Officer at Indero, formerly known as Innovaderm, with over 20 years of experience in global clinical development and medical strategy in dermatology and medical aesthetics. Dr. Jankicevic has led projects for top companies, developing over 300 protocols and implementing numerous studies. A renowned dermatologist and key opinion leader, she is also a sought-after lecturer and advisor in the field. We are also joined by Dr. Ovalles, who is the Senior Director of Rheumatology at Indero. Dr. Ovalles provides medical leadership and strategic guidance in rheumatology research. He collaborates with business development, supports operational and regulatory teams, and builds relationships with key stakeholders. A board-certified rheumatologist, Dr. Ovalles specializes in therapies for immune-mediated inflammatory diseases. For this interview, we look forward to a discussion on the common mechanism between the two therapeutic areas, overlaps between dermatology and rheumatology clinical strategies, and finally, the unique challenges of these two specialties. So let's begin here with our first subject. So Dr. Jankicevic, can you identify for our audience the common mechanisms and clinical characteristics between dermatology and rheumatology, and how can these similarities be leveraged in clinical development?
Dermatologic and rheumatologic diseases converge on pathophysiological, diagnostic, and therapeutic fronts. For example, both dermatologic and rheumatologic pathologies frequently arise from aberrant autoimmune processes, resulting in inflammatory cascade that will lead to tissue damage. This autoimmunity is a hallmark of many conditions with skin and musculoskeletal clinical manifestations, including multi-system diseases such as systemic lupus erythematosus, systemic sclerosis, dermatomyositis, or psoriatic arthritis. Even rheumatoid arthritis, while predominantly disease of the joints, often manifests with associated cutaneous findings, such as rheumatoid nodules. All of these associated findings are indicating really that autoimmune inflammatory diseases have some commonality in terms of fundamental pathophysiology. In addition to that, there is another prominent feature of both dermatologic and rheumatologic diseases, and that's their chronic, relapsing, and remitting nature, right? This behavior is cyclical, and it's leading to us really constantly being challenged in ability to predict the course of these diseases. As a result of all of that, in therapeutic aspect, there are a lot of overlaps in approach, and it's no surprise that quite often the same investigational medicinal product is being looked at in dermatologic and rheumatologic indications, sometimes even concurrently. What do you think, Juan? Does that resonate with you?
Oh, totally. Absolutely, Jasmina. I don't want to be repetitive, but I think that the fact that all these inflammatory conditions overlap is something that will really be easily translated, be easily used in more than one therapeutic area. And all those examples that you provide are accurate. And those pathologies are usually driven by the same inflammatory pathways. Take, for example, the right now famous interleukin-70 pathway, the interleukin-23 pathway, just overlapping psoriatic arthritis and plaque psoriasis, or the fibrotic pathways overlapping between systemic sclerosis and other fibrotic dermatology conditions. So these common processes, these common immune dysregulations really overlaps in the clinics, overlaps in the operational perspective. So this is something that really help us to accelerate the course of clinical development. That's where we are trying to leverage. That's we are trying to really build and apply to the projects our clients are invested in. And I want to clearly stress that here at Indero, bringing dermatology and rheumatology together into a single CRO objective was a strategic decision, a scientific decision, rather than just um, a market opportunity. Like there is a big market out there, let's go for it. No, no, no. It's what it was just not that. It's a natural step from a purely scientific perspective, just bridging between dermatology and rheumatology and working for all our clients that have IMPs, that have assets that likely will be targeting both therapeutic areas with the same mechanism of action. And again, this ultimately just will improve trial efficiencies, will improve how we'll be able to bring new treatments to our patients.
Exactly. And bridging here on what you're saying, Dr. Ovalles, how can sponsors capitalize on the overlaps between the two therapeutic areas when building clinical development strategies?
That's a great point, Valerie. One of the biggest advantage is the ability to really create integration, create integrated development plans. So many biologics like TNF inhibitors, IL-27, IL-23 blockers, or the mechanism of action, the inflammatory pathways that are more recently explored or already target multiple indications across dermatology and rheumatology at the same time. So sponsors can design trials that will evaluate a single drug with multiple conditions. That opens the door to several opportunities. We can uh, target that using platform trials, using master protocols, or just following classic clinical development pathways, but um, but really leveraging the commonalities, the use of the same investigator networks, the use of the system that we know that works for these specific indications, and beyond that, beyond the operational efficiencies, here in Indero, we are really focused on building a strong network of investigators, a strong network of PIs, KOLs, that have the experience in both fields, people that really understand the disease, the pathophysiology, that really will appreciate and engage with the mechanism of action, and also at the same time quickly bridge with the patient needs, quickly connect what we are developing with what the patients are looking for. And that is critical. That is really important to manage all these complex immunological diseases and of course, improving the recruitment, looking for those subjects, and improving the trial execution. And I'm sure that Dr. Jasmina share my perspective, but dermatologists are from another world, right? So we have so many things in common, but it's like dermatologists are from Venus and we rheumatologists are from Mars. So I'm totally sure that she will be able to bring relevant perspective into this question. Jasmina, what is your opinion about this?
So first of all, I don't think we're that different. At least my experience, I can start with you, but then thinking about my colleagues, rheumatologists that I collaborated with as a clinician as well as an investigator, there is a strong collaborations between dermatologists and rheumatologists because the overlap in clinical manifestations of the diseases that we're both looking at. And in particular, rheumatologic diseases that often require this multi-specialty approach, right? So but your question was really how can sponsor capitalize? So what I'm going to try to do is actually put myself in a sponsor's shoes. I feel like I will be potentially able to give a better answer. So when I think from a sponsor's perspective, because before I started working in a CRO world, I was on the sponsor side. What I see is that overlap between dermatologic and rheumatologic indications presents opportunities on multiple levels. The one for sure is streamlined clinical development. Consequently, there is more efficient resource utilization opportunity. And then ultimately, from a medical strategy perspective and commercial strategy perspective, there's like a much greater market potential, right? So as a consequence, for instance, given that many drugs in dermatology and rheumatology share common underlying mechanisms, a sponsor can leverage findings from one indication, from clinical studies focused on one disease to the other, right? So you can leverage even from regulatory perspective. So that's a good thing. Also, what can happen is that they can co-investigate multiple indications in parallel programs. Juan explained one of the ways to approach it. And in addition to that, very attractive opportunity to me is sort of that dual indication development, which means that we're enrolling a representative patient population and investigating both dermatologic and rheumatologic endpoints and getting much more enriched a view of the potential of the investigational product. Really, the ultimate goal is to expedite regulatory approval, to reduce investment, and maximize the utility of therapies across multiple disease areas. That's what I see as a core. The other thing that it's really blooming is this result of the convergence in dermatologic and rheumatologic diseases as autoimmune conditions is opening the door of biomarker-driven development. Biomarkers can guide patient selection, and in many of these diseases, it's really not easy to enroll patient population, and there is a significant phenotypic diversity. So using biomarkers can lead to more specificity and sensitivity in clinical trials, leading us to more definite answers on certain questions. And this is what we are going to see more and more as we are moving towards precision medicine as a principle in clinical development. Ultimately, the overlap between dermatology and rheumatology presents an opportunity for cross-disciplinary collaboration, right? We recommend sponsors to engage with us because of this exposure to dermatology and rheumatology as early on as possible, because we're able to help with the really study design, with clinical and operational considerations, with biomarkers, endpoints, with data collection methods, and ideally align everything that we're trying to do for the ultimate benefits in both therapeutic areas whenever that is applicable.
Definitely. And so I feel like we covered a lot of the overlaps and the positive aspects of both indications. But if we have a look at the challenges that both indications bring, how can these be addressed and ensure really high quality data in patient safety, Dr. Jankicevic?
Yeah. I think that dermatology and rheumatology clinical trials, although being different in many areas, in general experience a lot of similar challenges. But what is different is the solutions that are being implemented due to the nature of the diseases themselves, the differences in patient populations, and even complexities of measuring some of the outcomes, which I'll give credit to rheumatology, are in general more complex, I think. Some of the key common hurdles would be, for example, efficacy assessments. In both dermatology and rheumatology, we have issues with the intra and inter-rater variability, in general subjectivity of the rater. There is a risk, obviously, of having then suboptimal quality of the data, especially efficacy data, which can lead to high placebo response rates, and we see them across dermatology and rheumatology. There are also, common challenges in patient recruitment and retention, especially in earlier stages of development, because these are more complex studies that are, often more burdensome for patients and consequently maybe not as attractive. Also, in earlier stages of development, some of the mechanisms of actions are not as established, right? So they may be perceived as a high risk studies from patients' perspective. And also some longer term studies can be bothersome to patients. Then there is the big one, right? Heterogeneity of the patient population with a lot of variables that can influence the quality of the data, and they will really change how we perceive some of the variables. There is then comorbidities and polypharmacy, which I think is particularly notable in some of the multi-system inflammatory autoimmune diseases that are rheumatologic more right inclined towards the rheumatology, where we really need to pay attention to how we're going to manage that in order to keep patient in the study. There's also the issue with these diseases not being stable. They flare up, they relapse. Consequently, that's another danger. Are we enrolling the stable patient population? Is that fact that there are relapses and there are relapses, are they going to influence how we're interpreting the data and how they're going to affect the status of the patient at the primary time point, which is crucial for getting a conclusive study? There is a problem of patient adherence, problem of compliance, especially if the investigational product is not fast acting, right? So there is a lack of patience potentially. And then safety monitoring is a huge and important aspect, especially for systemics. We live in the world of biologics and small molecules. In many of the indications, safety monitoring becomes a big ticket. So what I would want to say is that our rationale at Indero as a science-driven contract research organization specialized both in dermatology and rheumatology is that we understand these challenges, and we have experience, but we've also worked hard to develop more effective solutions to minimize risks, to protect safety of the patients, to help sponsors generate accurate, reliable, reproducible data that are really going to be able to reflect the true safety and efficacy profile of the investigational product that they're looking into. So I think that's very important, and that's why this is very exciting to us at Indero. Would you agree, Juan?
Totally agree, Yasmina. Uh, you're right. At the beginning of your answer, you clearly clarified that the challenges are there for both areas, and the challenges are distinct. We just address those with different approaches. And just to discuss some specific examples, something that our clients can really relate about is probably the major one is the high placebo response in these indications, in these therapeutic areas, especially in selected conditions like atopic dermatitis or systemic lupus erythematosus, so where the observed placebo response are north of 50 and 60%. So that's a huge placebo response that is kind of the expected in current trials. And this makes critical to have a well-defined, straight and strong uh, endpoints, clinical endpoints, and of course, investigators that are regularly trained and certified how to collect all these endpoints, or how to use and collect all these efficacy data points. That's probably one of the best approaches to address the high placebo response problem that we have. And another common challenge is the complexity of the systemic diseases. So it is not a problem of one organ, one disease, one outcome. Everything is streamlined, everything is easy. No, it's a problem that related that many rheumatic conditions involve several multi-organ involvement. So it requires a multidisciplinary approach or investigators with a high experience, a high understanding of all the manifestations, a real understanding of the whole disease. And on top of that, it not only requires multiple disciplines, but also require the use of composite endpoints. It's an endpoint that covers everything, that covers the skin, the musculoskeletal system, the kidneys, the central nervous system, all those potential manifestations that can be providing either safety signals or efficacy signals. For example, the SRI-4 or the BICLA scores that are used in every single lupus trial right now. Um, and how we try to tackle those problems. So that's where the specialized advanced adjudications committees comes. It's those are the regular committees that we use in this complex lupus and scleroderma trial, and it is actually something essential to ensure the consistency of the data we are collecting. And here at Indero, we really address all those challenges, those and other challenges, using strong, robust support. We are there for the investigators. They can easily reach to us. There is a open channel of communication between the scientific and medical team and all the sites. We also use our central review services. We have our strategies that are driven by, monitoring strategies that are data driven. And our approach in general is looking for consistency across sites, trying to enhance that integrity and, of course, even most important than that integrity is keeping patient safety at the forefront, the most important thing.
Absolutely. So thank you so much. This brings an end to our conversation today. Thank you to Dr. Jankicevic, Dr. Ovalles for sharing your insight, and thank you to our audience for tuning in.
Thank you,
Thank
Valerie, for
you.
having us.
All the best to everyone.